For the past several months, the United States has faced an almost unprecedented challenge fighting a deadly virus that has infected millions and had taken the lives of more than 120,000 Americans. A pandemic can overwhelm even the most prepared communities, and that is why we have the Strategic National Stockpile, the nation's largest store of life-saving pharmaceuticals and medical supplies. To ensure the federal government has the resources to help states protect the health and the safety of Americans during a public health emergency. But the scale of the coronavirus pandemic depleted our national stockpile in just a matter of weeks, leaving state and local governments scrambling to acquire the masks, the gloves, and other supplies that were so desperately needed in order to keep people safe. Many communities facing the highest rates of infection struggle to obtain the supplies that they needed, including my home state of Michigan. Instead of providing a coordinated national approach to effectively using the Strategic National Stockpile and other tools to acquire and distribute supplies nationwide, the president told states that they were on their own. That move forced states to compete against each other and the federal government for life-saving medical supplies that were already in shortage all across the world. Since this crisis began, Congress has passed several supplemental emergency appropriation bills to rebuild the stockpile. And while this funding will help provide some stability, there's no question that our nation would have been better positioned to tackle the pandemic if Congress and both the current and prior administrations had invested more in the stockpile before this crisis struck. It is abundantly clear that the federal government was not fully prepared to address a crisis on the scale of the coronavirus pandemic. And the result is the tragic loss of 120,000 of our fellow Americans and millions of families who have suffered the consequences. Ensuring the preparedness of the Strategic National Stockpile is an issue of national security and should be treated as such. We cannot allow a disaster of this magnitude to catch our government off guard again. We must provide steady funding to all our pandemic response efforts and also ensure that the Strategic National Stockpile is well maintained and prepared to address a broad range of possible threats. We must improve the communication between states and the federal government regarding available resources and strengthen the federal government's role in managing supplies during this and future crises. Finally, we must also take steps to address our over-reliance on foreign manufacturers of critical drugs and medical supplies. This is a serious national security vulnerability, and the pandemic has only further heightened and highlighted just how significant this risk is to the health and safety of the American people. So today's discussion will help us identify and prioritize critical decisions and investments to ensure we can continue to combat coronavirus as well as emergencies in the future. I look forward to hearing from all of our witnesses and look forward to working alongside each and every one of you to deal with this very daunting challenge. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Well, thank you, Senator Peters.